Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal, and tonight I will be talking about the Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana, in the U.S. For all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me, you can go to the podcast page, and that is salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you for listening to the show, whether you listen to the live streams or you listen on YouTube or the various podcast feeds or through the Troubled Minds Radio Network. KUAP Digital Broadcasting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, 7 nights a week. There you can find 2 episodes of the show every night at that time, right before Troubled Minds Radio. So, and if you'd like to support the show, there are a few different ways to do that. You can always share the show with others. And also, if you're into paranormal fiction and nonfiction, you can check out my books on Amazon.com. As well as, if you would like to, you can also donate directly to the show through donation links. All support is never expected, but always appreciated, however you choose to do so. And I think that covers everything. As far as that goes, the plan for tonight is this is a live stream, of course. Those that are here know that because you're here. And then also I will be doing a roundtable show that will not be live streamed, but both of these shows will come out on the podcast and YouTube feeds at some point tomorrow. So really excited about that. And this is actually a show that I did a little while back, but the recording software had an issue, which is really rare these days. So I'm not really complaining, but that's why if anyone hears this who was here for that stream, unfortunately I do not remember. But if this sounds familiar to anyone, then you may have been here for that live stream. So thank you for being here anyway. And so this is going to be the first in a series of shows I do whenever I can, probably once a week. That's the other thing. I'm going to start next week. I'm going to start doing just one news show a week, one paranormal news show per week, and then I'll be adding one topic-based show per week. So you may notice a slight change in the topics that are covered every day, starting next week. So, just because I really want to look into things more than just the news, and I want to be a little more selective in what I cover on the news as well. So, but anyway, so this is the first in this series of shows, basically talking about famous locations, at least here in the U.S., because that's where I'm at. They have a lot of history to them and are fairly well known for having paranormal activity. So, and of course today I'm talking about the Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana. I've already made a channel in this Discord server where you will be able to find all the links that I use for research on these kinds of shows. For anyone that hasn't joined the Discord, I recommend it. And once you get there, if you just look at the channel that's within the Salcedo Paranormal category, and it's called Show Notes and Sources, and you'll be able to find all the articles that I'm sort of drawing from today in covering this location and this topic. So, including the one that I'm going to be primarily drawing from here, there's this article from All That It's Interesting, and it summarizes everything pretty well. So I will, of course, throw in things as I remember them. But so regarding the Myrtles Plantation, this is it's located in Louisiana. It's now, of course, when it comes to plantations in the U.S. in the South, I think mainly in the South, but I could be wrong. This is back in the times in basically the 1800s, and so a lot of plantations around this time had employed or not employed were run and operated by slave labor. So there's a lot of suffering and tragedy that went on in these kinds of places. And so some of these plantations now are believed to be haunted by the people that were forced to work there or happened to pass away on those grounds. And of course, this is the place we're talking about tonight is the Myrtles Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana. And so let me see here. This is in the it's considered to be in the deep south of the U.S. And the plantation or the location started out just as a piece of property that was purchased by a general of the American Revolutionary War, David Bradford. And he built a house there in 1796 and named the place Laurel Grove. Again, I believe that's also a reference to some of the plants that were there. So he was basically fleeing from justice from his participation in an event called the Whiskey Rebellion of 1791 to 94. And so he built the house in what was then a Spanish colony. Of course, eventually that area did become part of the U.S. It says that he lived there for several years until eventually he was pardoned by one of the U.S. presidents. Let's see here, John Adams in 1799. And after that, he brought his family to live with him in this new plantation, which he expanded, of course, once everything was basically safe. So let's see here. After he passed, the area was handed down to his daughter and her husband, Clark Woodruff. And so the Woodruff family were sort of the next major family to own the plantation there. Now, this is where things get tricky in a way because this is sort of where legend starts, despite evidence of things happening in a different way. There was a legend. Basically, this is where the legend of Chloe starts. And so as the story goes, Clark Woodruff was basically not faithful to his wife. This legend says that he forced his attention on one of these slaves, Chloe. And so she was moved to the house away from the fields. And so she, once she was there, she started to worry about being sort of punished by the wife or discovered by the wife. So she started to eavesdrop on the family. And this is where the legend starts here in a way, is that Woodruff caught her one day. And according to legend, keep in mind this is just a legend, that as punishment, one of her ears was basically disfigured. And so from then on, she had to wear a turban to cover that part of her head, which did not look good, obviously. And so I've heard a couple different versions of this, actually. One is that she wanted to prove how useful she was to the family, but also there's the other side of this legend that she wanted revenge. So there was one night when the family was going down to dinner, and Clark was away. Chloe allegedly put a bit of poison into their food, into the food of the wife and the children. Now, the one version I heard that I didn't find in all these articles, I've heard it a few times. Heard it a few times on other podcasts where she did this knowing how to counteract the poison, and she was going to help out, basically heal the family once they had been poisoned, and in an effort to sort of win favor back with the family and with Clark. But the other part of the legend is that she did this, she poisoned them out of revenge. And so this ended up killing Woodruff's wife and 2 of his children. So now at this point, the other slaves heard about this, and they captured Chloe and hung her in fear that Clark would, when he returned, he would take everything out on all of them, not just her. And so once that goes into more details here that we really don't need to go through, more graphic, but and so after that, that's when the apparitions of Chloe started to appear. And this legend went on for many years before actual reports of paranormal activity and sightings started coming out from the property. Now, after this goes back into, I believe this is more well-known, possibly accurate here, but it says that in 1834, Woodruff sold the plantation to a man named Sterling, and who remodeled the place and renamed it. This is where the current name came from. The Myrtles Plantation. Now this is based on, again, another a tree that was common in the area. This Myrtles crepe tree. So sometime after, it says that the plantation passed to William Winter, a man who was who married one of the daughters of Sterling. And then in 1871, an unnamed man, someone that the records don't name him, apparently shot Winter in the chest as he was leaving the house. And so his apparition is also said to be in the house, and also can be heard running back into the house and up the stairs before the sounds stop as he passed away in the middle of the staircase. So, in the arms of his wife. And so the plantation from there went through several owners. It wasn't until a lot later that the paranormal started to happen, supposedly, in the Myrtles Plantation. And this is the apparitions, basically, that were of Chloe and also of Winter. This was when, in 1970s here was when the plantation was purchased by the Myers family, and they turned it into a bed and breakfast. And that's when, sort of, after people started coming and going all the time, again, going back to that whole hotel, you have people coming and going all the time. And that's when people started reporting hearing strange sounds. Others saw apparitions, often of a young girl wearing a turban. Now, keep in mind, again, this legend had already been around locally for many years. Let's see here. In 1992, the owner of the plantation took a picture, and you can find it in some of the articles here, again, check out the Discord, that supposedly caught the apparition of Chloe. Now, she was taking the picture for insurance purposes, the owner, but that's how the apparition was caught. And but the thing about this, let's see here. So also, of course, I already mentioned the sighting of Winter. But the problem with the whole story about Chloe is there does not seem to be any evidence of any of these things happening. And in fact, the Woodruff family never recorded owning a slave by the name of Chloe. And Woodruff's wife and children did pass, but they at the time there was in let me see, in Louisiana there was this thing going around called yellow fever, this sickness, and that is actually what they passed of. They passed, what led to their passing. And so again, apparently from what everyone has looked into, because there have been people that have looked into this a lot more than I have, a lot of the stories of the murders and other tragic events that happened there were not accurate according to historical records. Now, I've said this before in other shows. I do think there's always a possibility that things may not always be recorded the way we think they should or expect them to be in terms of historical record. But also, there is this idea that I've heard about over the last few years and come to, that if enough people hear of something that supposedly happened, then they start to wonder about it and think about it a lot, and maybe even get to the point where they believe these stories, which, without doing research, it's understandable why they believe these stories, these legends, and all that energy that is generated by all these people hearing about these legends and eventually wanting to see the apparitions themselves may lead to the creation of a thought form or a tulpa, which is all this energy that gathers based on focus on this one idea, that can then, in theory, lead to the creation of a sentient sort of being that can then start to do things on their own. And so this is the idea behind why people still today, report seeing someone that looks similar to the description of this figure known as Chloe. And so this is amazing to me, this idea that maybe there never was this person, but now, because of all this focus and all this attention given to this legend, there is an entity, a being there, that maybe even thinks of themselves as Chloe, because that's what everyone thinks that this being is. And I think this can happen in any number of places, and I think maybe this will be a recurring theme in some of these other places that I go to cover in this sort of unofficial series here. And I just wonder how often that's the case. Or again, the flip side of that, of course, is always, to me, what if there was something similar that happened? Even if maybe the name is wrong or details are wrong, what if something similar did happen, and it really is some kind of a spirit of someone from before, that their circumstances were similar, and or at the very least their appearance is similar to what the legend says Chloe looked like. So these are all just amazing concepts to me. A lot more than I ever used to consider. I years ago I used to think that I think of ghosts as just being just this one thing, the spirit of someone that had passed. And I don't think of it all the same way anymore now. After hearing so much and reading so much and everything, I think there are a lot of possibilities as to what ghosts can be, or what apparitions can be. So that basically covers everything. Again, if you want more details on all of that, you can check out the Discord and my server here, and then the show notes and sources channel in the Salcedo Paranormal category. And so yeah, that basically covers that. Other places I'm thinking of covering, and cases I'm thinking of covering, include the Amityville house and all of that. Probably the Queen Mary. I've touched on that before. I've shared some stories that I found of experiences people have had there. Definitely the what do you call it? Waverly Hills, sanatorium. That's one of those places I would like to visit someday. Really, all these. Well, maybe not Amityville. That's sort of, I think, a private property. But these public places, and I'm not sure what the current state of Waverly is either. But yeah, so really, this whole series is going to be about some of those names that just about everyone who's into the paranormal has probably heard about. And if you all have suggestions for that series as well, please feel free to let me know, either through Discord or through my email, which is salcido@gmail.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal@gmail.com. And I will see what I can find on whatever you all suggest. And we can go from there. So that's really the plan for that series. I'm not sure if I'll do an episode of that every week. I may pick other topics to go over once each week here, but yeah. So that's the plan for that. Again, these places that have these stories, it just amazes me how much energy, whether they're based on someone that existed or not, how much energy. If you think about that, there's people that are constantly coming and staying and then going. And how many of those people either went there because of hearing the legends, or once they got there, they heard the legends. And you just have all this focus on this one idea. And does that do something? And I think that's an important question in trying to figure out what generates paranormal activity and in locations. And that's not to say I don't doubt that there are spirits of people that have passed that are still around for various reasons. I think some cases they may return to a location that they loved. Again, I think that even though we all have ideas maybe and based on maybe spirituality and different religions and all those things, even though we have ideas of what an afterlife may be like, I think it's hard to know for sure until we get there. That's just my opinion. But so yeah, I do believe that there are spirits of people that are out there for various reasons. But I also think it's possible that some of what people experience may be thought forms. So that'll do it for today. Thank you all for listening and being here. And I will, again, there will be 2 episodes that will be released tomorrow, including this one. And I will be back with another live stream on Saturday on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care.